Thanks everyone. Hope this isn't too boring. Appreciate the opportunity to share our story and a bit of an overview of our business, how we sort of came about and where we've got to, and how we've done that, and a key focus being understanding a consumer and delivering exactly what they want. So just our business predominantly is a pastoral family farming operation. We're sort of 5 generations in southern New South Wales. I think the stepping out further into the supply chain, the main catalyst for that was actually taking out a CAAB award in 2006. Unbeknown to us, we had our cattle were going through, at that time we were doing mostly feeder steers, going through to the major feedlots, and we actually came first in Australia for our overall excellence in marbling on the back of a real focus between 2000 and 2006 on carcass traits, and particularly IMF and EMA within our stud herd and our commercial herd. So on the back of that, we decided we want to step up into the supply chain and do a little bit more with our meat. That was 2007. And then in 2009, I think if you remember back, the major retailers in Australia were really going to pre-packed meats and retail ready, and at the unfortunate expense of a lot of the butcher shops. And for us, we saw that opportunity. We'd leased the abattoir in the local town, which had been mothballed, and we recommissioned it into a boning room and a value add plant. And we had a couple of cornerstone customers, being Harris Farm Markets at the time and Superbarn in the ACT in Sydney, where we actually started doing all the pre-packed meat. We had a really good growth. It was just the right time at the right place. We set our brands up being a grass-fed Angus story on the back of our Angus breed. And it was just the right time at the right place, where we actually grew from 2 employees in 2008 to 38 in 2009. Largest employer in the town. It was just a really good ride that we went along. We always had the view that the export market was going to do the same opportunity. And in 2013, we built an export plant on the south coast, about 2 hours south of Sydney. And my brother at the time, still brother and always brother, joined the business at the time, and he just moved his 3 daughters and his wife to Hong Kong, and he said, I'm going to go set up the export markets. And exactly as per the presentation, it was about being in the market, understanding the customers we were targeting, and then developing the products that they were going to want and were going to buy and was going to sell successfully. I think in 2014, a big year of a lot of work and a lot of travel, and we got 60 retail stores, so it was a real tough grind. And then in the next year, we got into about 2,000 stores, so we had a really big growth. Again, it was the same strategy, focus on what the consumer wanted, pre-packed, pre-portioned meat that they could sell, basically like they can sell a tin of tomato sauce. It was like, deliver it, put it on the shelf, it was a fixed weight, they could do fixed price sales, they could do multi-buy options. And if you think about markets like Singapore, where Andrew's moving to, they have a lot of low-quality labour, particularly coming across from Malaysia. No idea on their cost of goods when they were bringing in primals, trying to cut it in a retail cabinet, putting it on a retail shelf with a bit of overwrap for a 3-day shelf life, start marking it down on day 2, 50% off on day 1, and then you ask them, what are your margins, what are you making? They've got no idea, because generally they don't know what gets off-cut, what the yields are, or anything. So we saw the opportunity, we developed the plant and focused on those consumers, and now we have about 3,000 stores across Southeast Asia. And we've been doing a bit into China, which I'll touch on with 2 case studies being Walmart and Carrefour. Just a slide here on the brands. So we obviously still have the Angus breed, but we do a lot of trading of all sorts of livestock as well. We have obviously a Wagyu brand, and off the farming operation, we turn off about 14,000 head a year at the moment. Of that, probably 60% are Angus. So we don't really focus on anything and breed specific. We have certified grass-fed brands, we've got grain-fed brands, and we've been, particularly in the last couple of years, focusing on MSA and EQG brands. So it's basically eating quality graded, regardless of dentition. Really tight grading spec. We're sort of focusing on a minimum 5 days age of all of our primals, and we've started doing that about 2 years ago. We've probably sent in about 40 or 50 containers into China. And I'm off to the States this week because there's a big opportunity there. We're going to start actually sending all that product into China as well, being an antibiotic-free, never ever, but grain-fed on farm. So basically trying to put the marketing claims around a free-range, grain-fed system, supplementary fed. I'm sure most of you are aware of it. Feeding in bins in the paddock, consuming about 8 to 10 kilos of grain ration a day, around about 100 to 150 days on farm. usually in a crop of oats or something good, a good pasture base, and then working that in with our farming cycle to improve our pastures and our cropping rotation. Free beers last night. I need that water, that function, sorry. Bit of a summary of the different pack formats, like I was saying. You can see at the top there, like chilled retail, and then we've got primal cuts, frozen retail, portion cuts, and value-added products. So this is a bit of a summary of actually how, our supply chain works. There we go. So obviously the pastoral operations feeding into our processing side, and then obviously into our Hong Kong business, the office in Hong Kong, which is about 8 to 10 staff there, all of our finance, all of our logistics. Again, it's close in the market. You're a 1 hour flight to Taiwan, Philippines, Thailand, Singapore, and obviously naturally into China. Our office in Hong Kong is on the south side of the island. There's a high-speed train now that we can take into Shenzhen, Guangzhou. You're on a 15-minute train ride and you go through 80 million people. Some of the most affluent part of actually China, and it's right on the border, easily managed out of Hong Kong. And it's been a great success, and a lot of our key customers, actually a lot of them are based in the south, so you don't necessarily need to be in Shanghai or Beijing to build a big business in China. You can see down the bottom there, we do a small amount of non-meat products as well. Again, going back to the point about supplying what your customer wants, that was really formed by, we were supplying certain customers where they were then demanding something else that we could bring out of Australia. So I'll give you a couple of examples, like a Mexican QSR chain in Hong Kong. We started supplying the beef and lamb, then we started supplying the pork, the chicken, the avocados, tomatoes and lettuce for their guacamole, and then we started supplying the flour for their tortillas, and we were taking our canola oil. So it was an interesting mix there, and the same in some of our customers in the Middle East. We actually export marinated goat's cheese, for example. We put it in mixed air freights, and again, trying to supply a full solution, whether they're a food service customer or a retail customer. And I think whenever we pitched our business into a retailer, we didn't actually go there with, here's our products, take our product. We started at the other end, understanding what they were selling, how they were managing it, where we could actually save costs, where we could manage their margins, improve their margins, and provide a product where they could actually make money and we could actually sell more meat, and working with them. And the transparency of the data share of that initially was a very difficult conversation, but once they actually started giving us data, we actually then, over a 3, 6, 12-month period, we're actually increasing their sales by letting them share the data with us, how we could actually help with certain promotions or drive more sales or do discounts and different promotions. Just an example of one of our retail stores and some of the different products. You can see the top pack on the right there is it's a product that we do into Carrefour. That logo is the Carrefour quality line, so it's a global Carrefour program. It's an end-to-end supply chain. It's probably our most robust end-to-end supply chain customer we've got. So literally all the breeding farms are registered, the fattening farms are registered. They're all independently audited by Ozmeat. It's a really unique program that we do with Carrefour. It gives us global access. We're the only supplier to that product outside of Australia. The good-looking chap on the horse is my father from certainly a long time ago, but you can see the brand there. We actually took the signature out of his checkbook, so I better not zoom in on that, for the signing on of every pack that we supply. That every pack's got a traceability code. Every primal's got the breeder ID, the lot ID, the fattening ID, very strong traceability. And I'll move into the technology piece, because what we've been building in the tech piece, which for those of you here yesterday, using a blockchain system to actually streamline and automate that process, but then something we can apply to all of our customers. The couple of products on the bottom are a frozen Wagyu brand we've been doing into Hong Kong and other markets, but particularly Hong Kong. On the back of all the unrest, we're supplying the largest TV shopping network, and the growth of sales has been massive, because the food service industry there has fallen over because no one's going out to restaurants. If I showed you a graph, it's been phenomenal. We've been up about 350% in the last 4 months of sales, it's obviously a great product because it's portion chilled, and then we're freezing it, we're shipping it frozen, they're selling it frozen, and we're moving them into a frozen thawed model, which I'll touch on here. For the last 12 months, we have been establishing a program which predominantly going into China, which the hurdle of getting pre-packed meats into China was the complexity of the market, and the logistics clearly, and then a market that size trying to distribute it across the whole of China. So we actually, with the MLA support, we developed a program where we're portioning product chilled at the casino abattoir, and then we're freezing it, and then we're shipping it with dual shelf life statements. So we're shipping it frozen in full loads and containers, distributing it frozen, and then our key customers in China are then merchandising the product chilled. So essentially we're really controlling their loss, because they're only putting a product on the chilled shelf when they've sold a product, and then they've got 21 to 28 day shelf life. So traditionally you go and see them and say, you can't handle chilled, can't sell it, just focused on that whole model of changing where they had almost like a wet market in the stores. So those photos there are actually, I think that is one of the retailers in China, I think it's Walmart. You can see how much better the product looks chilled. It's exactly what you would get like you're in Australia. It's packed in Australia, the country of origin, shipped and exported, put into the shelf over there. And they've gone from selling literally no Australian meat in that sort of format to, at the moment, we're in about 280 of 420 hypermarket stores in Walmart in China. And we've contracted and supplying 4 of the 6 largest retailers. And we've only just touched the top of the iceberg with what this could potentially come. And the sales speak for themselves. I've got a slide further along which I'll show you just the consumer insights and what we've been doing with people on the ground and with the MLA, and understanding how to improve those sales with each of those customers in China. Like I was saying here, you can see one of the MLA, David Carew, and the team. That's actually on the launch with Walmart. There was a team of 6 from the MLA there, interviewing customers over a week-long process, understanding what was working, what wasn't. You can see the True Aussie Beef logo on the floor. There was a day of sales with that taken away, then the day of sales put that back there. Understanding, watching people walk to the cabinet, why they would buy, why they wouldn't buy. Key insights we took out of that was, for example, not understanding how to cook the product, not understanding what sauce to put with the product, thinking the product looked expensive, even because of the packaging. So there were lots of different insights we took out of that, which obviously we then sit back down with the retailer, we give them that feedback, we then will look at ways that we can address that. And a lot of that has actually been addressed by ourselves and our partner in Hong Kong by actually doing demonstrations, getting people in stores, cooking the product, and doing that sort of engagement with the consumer so they can try the product and then take it home. And interestingly, for example, on Walmart, a hypermarket format like that, the number of sales now online in an offline store is sitting around 80%. So you've got people going in to buy the product, they have to get in there, they do their initial purchase, and then post that, they're buying online. So you've got consumers that are going to use technology. They're, like you're saying, the millennials, they're younger people that they will trust the product, they'll buy it once, they'll buy online, and then they're the ones that are going to adopt any technology and any traceability, and they're the ones that are going to care for that and pay for that. Like I was saying before, this is the Carrefour model we're doing, just showing you the traceability, the grower ID, breeder ID. Currently we supply about 90% of this out of our own farming system, and then we've got half a dozen other local producers that are registered and part of the program. Generally, they're guys that we also sell our bulls to and our genetics to, so there's a full circle happening there in that system. It's a great story, and we're about to launch. I think we've just launched last week into Carrefour in China. This photo here is out of Carrefour Taiwan, but a very big retailer in Taiwan. They're about 48% of the market share in Taiwan, Carrefour. So just onto the technology, you can see, moving on with Carrefour, we've been over the last 12 months, probably longer, 12 to 18 months, looking at improving our traceability in our systems. And I was talking about it yesterday on the Data Integrity Systems Company about how we're using blockchain to try and integrate the NLAS and our stockbook system and our MSA grading data. So we've got a full traceability system to the point of processing. And then taking that same technology to include our logistics and then all the way to our distribution to our end consumer. There's just some data there about the growth of the sales in Carrefour when they tried it on chicken. They've been very supportive. Here's a letter saying that for Carrefour, they want us to have this in place for us to be in a full penetration across their China market and Taiwan, that they are supportive, and Walmart as well. Walmart want it mandatory by the time we get to a full 100% saturation. But through the development of that process, you can see the slide here, we've also, and I, talking about it yesterday, we've identified the amount of spin-off benefits for us operationally, for the livestock, and our processing and our production and how we operate and run our system, because in the spin-off of actually having an end-to-end supply chain and the tech underneath it, we can actually get better visibility of our livestock, we get better visibility of their performance, their ADGs, the location where we're buying this livestock, if we're buying from, for example, cattle coming out of Dubbo to cattle coming out of Victoria, days on farm. So we've got about 2 years of data all the way to the grading data and the MSA, and we're obviously the more time, the more data, the better machine learning and the better analytical research we're getting out of that. That just shows you there like a QR code, so a consumer can scan that product. It'll give them the feedback of what the cut is, where it was from, the breeding, the days on farm, when it was processed, when it was shipped. Naturally, you've got the extra benefits here where you could put, for example, cooking instructions or pairing the sauces and whatnot. So we've been working with a company on this part of the prototype with a small fintech startup out of Adelaide, Availer, and they've been 12 months of work now integrating NLIS and Stockbook and our inventory and our processing at Casino into a blockchain platform where basically you're sucking the data up. The quality of the data is very good because you've got a third-party industry backed and owned NLIS system, and then you've got a Stockbook system which it is our data, it's our management tool, it's the lifetime traceability of the animals. When they arrive from another pick, they arrive on the farm, they get loaded up. That actually tracks the animal for the days on farm, their entire costs. Initially it was set up to try and develop an individual animal P&L, so we knew exactly what every animal cost us, how long it had been on the farm, what it owed us, what diet it had. So we have obviously a days on farm, we have a days on feed, and then we have the ration in there, so we know if it was treated with an antibiotic and then it gets flicked out of our program, or if it's at 100% certified grass-fed. So it's really our source of truth. And naturally what we're trying to use that for is also, which I'll go into next, is the opportunity to be able to protect the value of that asset, whether they're a biological asset being livestock or they've been processed, and their inventory, because it's very difficult for a business like us, and I think on the back of the drought when it does break, I think there's an enormous opportunity to use technology to provide better trade finance and livestock finance, working capital finance within a system to be able to trade, buy livestock, fatten livestock, because at the moment there's very little options out there. They're pretty expensive rates because generally most financiers in the space don't really understand livestock and they don't understand the value gain of that livestock. And the systems we're building, I'm trying to set up a vehicle that we can actually use our supply chain as almost like a prototype to develop a different financing tool that I think on the back of the drought, a lot of producers will be, have suffered pretty bad cash reserve situations on feeding livestock for the last couple of years, wanting to step back in the market for an appreciating asset that, they need to buy. And I think getting good financing against those animals is pretty difficult to come by. So for us, on the technology piece, we see that as the biggest opportunity, and like in the industry benefits of that, what we're trying to develop is obviously the biosecurity, which everyone's touched on, knowing where the livestock are, where they came from, traceability from the carton back to the animal, which, as we get on, like for example, a business like us and processing Casino, on any day of the week, there would be cattle there being processed from 4 different states. And, product goes through the abattoir, it gets traceability by lot numbers or whatever. But at the end of the day, there's still a huge risk there. If something was to happen in the country, I think, and Andrew touched on it, it really would be catastrophic. And I think the more we can invest and build and make that system more robust, and I think yesterday's discussion from the Integrity Systems Company about 2025 and beyond, I think we're all on the right track, and the faster we get there, the better. I'll just move along a few more slides here. We've been working with this company as well, Escavox, on a smart track and trace device that we can actually track every product in real time, every 10 seconds, temp, time and location, GPS trackers in our air shipments and our sea shipments, as opposed to your old data logger where you just throw it in and you get feedback, or if at all. We're actually tracking it where it's going and using that as a way of making sure our supply chain is rock solid, and if there's any issue in that, we can track back where that happened. Like I was saying before, slide about the ability to use our tech and our business as a way of getting better asset-backed lending and finance. And we have a massive issue for us managing inventory when we've processed livestock. We can't actually get finance on the raw material or what's sitting in chillers and aging, and it's sitting there, and sometimes we'll have an enormous amount of meat sitting there, aging, waiting to fill orders or consolidate containers going to the US or China and other markets. And by using the tech piece, we can actually have visibility that we've got, you might have $20 million worth of livestock and you've got $10 million worth of meat, you've got $30 million of asset in that supply chain to that point, secured by a technology platform that is robust, and a lender will actually see that and go, I'm happy to lend and extend money against that, so you actually can then use that to grow your business. I'll just move quickly through here because we're just running short on time, but like I was saying, Walmart, it's been very successful. We've been putting the product into there now for the last sort of 12 months that we started the frozen thaw product. Just to give you some data there from the July to September. On the back of all of the insights we're getting, we actually had people on the ground in the store cooking the product, talking to consumers, and you can see some of the data there, like sales over that period increased 230% when the product was displayed chilled from frozen. So a lot of them are actually merchandising it incorrectly, not understanding it, leaving it frozen. Put it in the chilled section, up 230% in sales. 275% for the modular stores, again, smaller footprint. That's just showing the type of consumer that wants to buy the product there. They're the convenience-focused stores. Where we had actually, look at the demonstrations, up 625% on the back of those demonstrations in stores. We put people on the ground cooking in there over a weekend. And then 226% where we actually had staff in there actually helping with the merchandising and getting it showcased right. I'll just finish on this slide. There was a few more industry ones which I was going to touch on ASF, but Andrew did a great job there. I think we understand the opportunity. For us, key slide here, if you look at those 4 points, engaging the consumer about what they want to buy and how they're going to purchase it, the reputation and the provenance of that product and the quality of it, using the tech to verify that, making sure you've got the right price points. Hence when meat was getting more expensive, we were doing 220 gram steaks into Taiwan and Hong Kong. We wanted to get a price increase. They were reluctant. We just dropped the portion size from 220 to 200 grams, and we actually kept our price where we were. We took a 10% margin. So things like that. You don't want to just keep putting your price up and then eroding your sales. And then the fourth one, particularly with the consumers we're dealing with in China, it's all about that social media platform. You have a bad experience, it'll kill your business. You have a good experience, and you can actually launch it because they'll actually self-sell. There was just a few slides there, but I'll wrap up. I was just about the growth, the opportunity in the macro environment at the moment. The US and China is just extraordinary on the back of ASF. So thanks very much. Hope that wasn't too boring.